Welcome back to V8 Creative and part 44 of the Ultima RS build, and on this episode we're going to focus on that 6.2 litre V8 engine. Yes, welcome back to the Dean Den, and more spannering, or more precisely, more detailing, because we're focusing on that monstrous V8. And now's the opportunity, before I put it in the car, painting the block, trial fitting the valve covers I've just received back from a fabricator, powder coated in flawless AP Racing red. It's beautiful. They are just stunning. So all I'm going to do now is we're going to go over on the floor and then start working on that V8. Yes, it's V8 time. Ah, my lovely LS3, 6.2 litres of raw horsepower and torque. I'm going to strip this. Now, not totally, but what I'm going to do is take all the ancillaries off and really take off anything I can to make the masking of the engine as easy as possible. And the reason I'm going to mask the engine is because all this rough casting area I'm going to spray with silver heat resistant engine enamel. And the reason I want to do that is, I'll just show a little picture up there. As you can see, rough cast aluminium tends to oxidize, and it gets like this patina on it, which I don't particularly like. It's like lumps of cheese growing on the engine. But give it a coat of lacquer, or not lacquer, engine enamel, and all that problem goes away. Now, the reason I have so much masking to do on this engine is I do not want to spray any machined surfaces, because these, providing you keep them clean, they don't grow fur. I don't know why, but they don't seem to. Is take all these ancillaries off. Now actually, when you actually order these ancillaries from Ultima, you will have to fit them to your engine anyway. So the second part of this video, when I show you me putting them all back on, would be useful for future builders, but this baby came with everything fitted. So thank you, Jeff, if you were the one that did this at the factory. So, and once I've masked all the engine up, which is probably going to take a fair while, but what it's going to illustrate is why I've got the pseudonym of Nigel Dean, because, yeah, when I build my cars, I'm a bit fussy, as you could probably tell from all the episodes so far, and why this is taking me so long, because I like things just to be right. And what I've got back is the rocker covers powder coated in AP Racing red. And what we'll do is, once it's masked, I'll pop those on, and I'll give a shout out to the company that helped me get those actually superbly finished, and with a little twist to them, which I'll share with you later. So I'm going to put the F1 practice on and put some background music. Sorry about that, but I'll speed this up because it will take, I would say, 2 hours of work to get this masked, but I just love it. See you in a moment. Cue music. good evening. You caught me relaxing after a hard day's spannering. And when I'm in these relaxed moments, I like to look at automotive publications, and this one I have here is amazing. It really is. You've probably guessed it. It is Ultima, the story so far. It's just been published, and I must say, it is a beautiful book. The images are just incredible. Well, it's great looking back at RS pictures, Evo, then the GTR, and then before that, the early marks. And I must say, this is a superb gift. And if you look at the description underneath this video, what you're looking at now on YouTube, you will find a link which will take you to a website where you can order one of these directly from the factory. Anyway, I'm going to get back on reading. And the next time you'll see me, I'll be back to spannering. Now, what a lovely, satisfying job that was. So here we have my naked engine ready for masking. So the things I've taken off, obviously the valve covers, because I can just mask around the top, so I don't want to overspray them, to be honest with you, even though I'm not using them. I'll probably sell them on eBay. Next, what you'll see is I took the air conditioning compressor off. A couple of lovely billet alloy brackets there, and I'll show you those in a minute. Also the alternator and also the belt tensioners. So what that does is that frees up a lot of access to all this casting area around the block. So if I focus up here like this, around here is all casting, and I want to spray that. Now this will get hot because obviously it's near the heads, the exhaust ports, so we may get a little bit of flaking there, but it'll be underneath the headers, we won't see it. Here we have a machine surface, and this is where I'm going to mask over all this area. Also, the spark plug holes, I'll just block these up. So basically we'll spray over this surface and also over the head bolts here. Now what you can see here is, here's the head gasket. I'm going to mask that off, and also these machine surfaces, I'll mask that. And then all around here, I'll just block up the dipstick hole, and these senders here, I'm not going to take these off, I'll just mask these up, they're easy, and then I can spray all this casting material. I'll probably spray the sump as well, that's pretty straightforward. The only thing is, the engine mounts are a little bit in the way, but to be honest, I don't particularly want to take it off here, and I can probably spray around the sides of that. So she's all ready now, so let's just get on with masking, which will take a little while, and again, as usual, I will speed it up and I will play some elevator music. Yes, welcome back to my V8, and sorry if you can hear some noise in the background. Rufus is chewing on his root. But anyway, all sprayed, and it was a bit hot out there. You saw how sunny it was. So I've just let this dry, and now what I'm going to do is take off all this masking, which I must say is very satisfying after it taking me 2 hours to put it on. And then what we'll do is we'll focus on the ancillary brackets, and I'll decide whether to paint those silver to match the engine or maybe black to match the ancillary. Don't know yet, but we'll do that in a minute. Let's just unwrap our present. Oh, this is so satisfying, and it's looking really good. Right, let's get these pulleys unwrapped. Do you know what? I'm really pleased with that. That was a lot of work masking this up, but it was worth it. Those edges there are so crisp. All that horrible casting, obviously it's still there, the texture, but it's all finished in a uniform aluminium colour, which matches the gearbox. And what that does is it makes the gearbox and engine look more like one. And leaving these polished surfaces just make it look as though it's a well-honed machine. Well, anyway, the next step in the process is to look at the ancillaries and decide what colour to paint the bracketry. Now, I might just do it the same as the block, or I might do it gloss black. I've got both. I'll offer each one up at a time and then make a decision. So let's just go over to the workbench. Welcome to my LS3 ancillary pile. Now, some of these components aren't going to be refitted to the engine, like the valve covers, so we'll just ignore those. But the others, such as the alternator in particular, have very large cast aluminium brackets, and much like the rest of the engine, it'll grow cheese if we don't protect it. So I'm going to give that a coat of paint. Not quite sure if it's black or silver, but the next scene you'll see what I've decided. And then otherwise, apart from that bracket, the other items, which I'll show you a close-up up there, are beautiful. They are machined billet alloy, and they are just pieces of art. So I'm going to leave those totally alone. And to be honest, they match the machine surfaces on the LS3, which is, I must say, just really raises the quality of the whole installation. So, more masking, more spraying, but the next time you'll see me is at the engine, putting this lot back on. Right, all the spraying is now complete, and I must say it all looks very nice, very sharp. And what I decided for the tensioners for the pulleys, I've done those silver to match the actual silver on the engine itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop everything back. I'll do close-ups when I do the front pulley setup. So if you're following my footsteps with an LS3, you can see exactly how everything is fitted. Now, all of these bolts have torque settings. I'm not going to put those on the video, but you'll see me using a torque wrench to get them just perfect. And A lot of them, what I'll be doing is putting a little bit of thread lock on, because we do not want these coming off when she gets hot and the metal starts expanding. Anyway, on that note, let's just get to it. Yes, here she is with all the ancillaries fitted. And next, we have the valve covers. And this is an opportune moment for me to give a huge shout out to Caged Laser Engineering. Now, this is an engineering business that is very well respected in the motorsport and specialist automotive worlds. It is just down the road from where I live, actually. And what they do is they fabricate chassis, roll cages, they laser cut, they fold and finish, and also design on CAD components for some very well recognised names, such as Caterham, Westfield and Chesil Limited, and you sort of get the idea. There's a whole long list here. But if you're interested in any fabrication work, any powder coating, get in contact. I'll put the contact details in the description on this video. But the drum roll, here they are. Wow. And I must say, I get very excited about things like this. This is just beautiful. So this red is actually the exact red, and I'll put the round number up there in the top corner, that AP use to actually paint their calipers. So this is a perfect, and I mean a perfect match. So these beauties, I'll just pop one on here. Don't they look lovely? Well, I haven't put the coil packs on yet, but there's one other thing we sort of practice with, because this area here, I thought, well, why don't we put a logo on there? Now, the thing is, these get really, really hot, so you can't put a sticker on there because they'll peel. So what Floyd did at Caged, he laser cut out of 1mm stainless steel my logo, and then it was powder coated in satin black. And these just pop on with 2 more set screws. And what that does then, clearly puts the brand on there. And I must say, it does look pretty neat, but I'm not sure at the moment. So you decide, you tell me on or off. I'll leave it up to you. But for now, what we're going to do, I'm just going to leave these to one side because they're quite fragile and I don't really want to get them bent. Let's pop the other valve cover on. She's coming together. Look, look. All that effort making that casting a consistent silver was really, really worthwhile. And why? Well, when you put on things like this, which are contrasting colours, it just pops more. It just makes the engine look, well, as though it's been designed to go into that Ultima rather than just being plucked out of, say, a Corvette. Now, part of that transformation, of course, is somehow doing something with this skull cap. And yes, I've actually contacted a company who are going to be fabricating something very, and I mean very special and unique for my RS, but that's for another episode. What we're going to do next to close this episode off is we're going to focus on the flywheel, the clutch and the pressure plate. So what I'm going to do now is crack open a box and show you how we take a Chevy V8 and we bolt it to a Porsche 911 gearbox. Now, unfortunately, we can't do that because the stand is in the way, but that doesn't stop me fitting, as I said, the clutch assembly. Anyway, over to the bench. Now, what I've got in front of me here is the conversion kit to take the Porsche gearbox and bolt it to the Chevrolet V8. Now, I can't put this conversion plate on just yet because the engine stand interferes and is in the way. So this will have to wait until the engine is in the car. But I thought let's open it anyway, shall we? Right, let me get a knife. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So basically what it does is it is bolted to the back of the LS3 using a certain number of bolts, I don't know which ones, and then the Porsche box then bolts on the other. And then in between goes the starter ring, the flywheel, and also the clutch assembly. So if I pop this down here, like so. In here, we have and this then fits like so. If I lift that up in there, and that's where the starter dog flies out to engage it. Now clearly this is bolted to the flywheel and to the engine. So I'll pop this, put that down. Then here we have the clutch assembly. So this is the flywheel, the clutch plates inside, and then also the pressure plate. And I'll show you each of those individually as we put them on the car. And also what's provided is hydraulic slave cylinder for the clutch. We also have multiple bolts, and I mean multiple bolts, and they're all individually labelled because they're all different lengths and different sizes. Because of course, the bolts going into the Porsche box are no doubt a different size to the bolts going into the engine. And then finally, we have here a clutch alignment tool, which I'll show you in a minute when we pop the clutch on, and then also the release bearing and little fork, which allows the clutch to engage and disengage. And that's about it. So let's get over to the engine, pull this stuff out, and then start fitting the clutch. Okay, I can sort of get in shot here, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble the flywheel and clutch onto the engine. Now what I've done is, clearly, I've said previously, I can't get the conversion plate on because of this engine stand, but I have checked that conversion plate would go over the whole assembly, the clutch assembly. It does, because apparently in some cases it doesn't, so you wouldn't want to do this until it was in the engine. But anyway, the first thing to go on to the back of the engine is the starter ring gear. Now what you'll see here is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts. Hold this on, and they've already got Loctite on them, which is really useful. But here you'll see there's a hole, and what this is for this drive peg. That what we do is that goes through the flywheel, through the starter ring gear, and basically into the end of the crankshaft. And what we'll do is we'll fit that once everything is in place. Okay, here's the flywheel, which then fits on top like so. So let me get one of these bolts. What I'm going to do is just hold this on with one bolt first, just so everything stays in place. Now these are set up to a particular torque, but let's just nip them up for now. Clean off any oil residue that may have accumulated onto the clutch biting surface. Okay, the next thing is to put in this little dowel here, drive pin, block of wood. There you go, and you can hear it change. So that's now in place. Next is the clutch plate. And on this side it says flywheel side, and Ultima provide this clutch alignment tool. On one end it has this spline that fits into the clutch plate, and the other end is exactly the right size to go into the spigot bearing. So if we push that in, we'll see the clutch just stays there. And the reason we need it to stay there is we're going to put the pressure plate on now, and if this wasn't held centrally, what would happen is we wouldn't be able to get the gearbox on. So let me get the pressure plate. Oh, here it is. So again, what I'm going to do is make sure there's no oil on it. We do not want a slipping clutch when we're dumping that 450 horsepower through those rear wheels. So if we now offer this up like so, now I'll just put one bolt in just to line things up and hold it in place. Now again, even though these have got lock washers on them, we're going to put on some Loctite. Okay, so this should just slip out now. And we remove this and we can throw that away. And there we have it. The whole clutch assembly, flywheel, ring gear, all installed. And I must say, very, very straightforward. You can see I used a red marker to show I've torqued all the bolts up, so this ain't coming off again. And really, as the engine sits now, this is how I'm going to leave it to install it into the RS behind me. So I've got a little creative director. Come on, come here. He wants to be in shot. Come here, come on. Rufus, 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 come and say hello to everyone. Oh, yes. Here he is. He's been asleep, Rufus. There you go. Right. So next episode, what we're going to do is turn our attention back to the interior, because there's a few small jobs I have to finish in there, and one particular upgrade which is brand new. Yep. As throughout this series, I've managed to work with the factory and launch some upgrades, and I guarantee you, those of you out there, a lot of you, when you see this, will really want it and tick that box. But that will have to wait until the next episode. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the channel. And also, from the creative director and myself, keep smiling, keep eating treats if you're a furry friend, and until next time, happy spannering.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over.